Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. All right, everybody. I'm back. Good to be back. So it is Saturday evening. It's probably about 8:30, 9 o'clock Eastern time as I record this. The Iron Bowl is very much going on as I speak now. But I bring it up because I've been away. I've been traveling. I've been with family. By the way, hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving holiday. We will do the full episode of the Aaron Torres pod on Sunday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, as we always do. The one thing I will say, though, is that I did think we were going to get some sort of resolution on Lane Kiffin, where he is going, where he is coaching next year. Is he staying? Is he going by the time we got on air? Unfortunately, it feels like we might not. And let's just do a quick 30-second refresher because, in my opinion, look, we knew we were supposed to get a resolution here on Saturday at some point about Lane Kiffin's future. It has not happened, and I think there are one of two reasons why this decision has not officially been made yet. One you can probably guess. The other one is certainly a little bit more sinister, but let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, so Lane Kiffin. Listen, I've done my spiel on Lane Kiffin a million times. Listen, my stance on Lane Kiffin really hasn't changed for about 2 to 3 weeks now. I believe that he is allowed to do whatever he wants with his life. It's his life. It's his future. It's his present. Do whatever you want. You want to be at LSU? That's fine. We know he has since eliminated Florida since the last time we spoke. Okay, that's cool. If you wanted to do Florida 3-4 weeks ago, that's fine. What I also do believe is don't string along the people that have helped put you in this position. And so I had no problem with the Ole Miss AD, Keith Carter, basically saying, hey, end of the Egg Bowl, you gotta make a decision, right? We talked about it all of last week. Keith Carter, the AD, comes out and says, final decision day coming after the Egg Bowl. And again, I think two things can be true. I think Lane Kiffin should be allowed to do what he wants, but if he's not all in on a national championship push, which we now know is very much a thing. Ole Miss is not getting left out of the college football playoff at 11-1, whether Lane Kiffin coaches them or whether I coach them. So you're either all in or you're not. And if you're not, that's fine. Good luck in your future, but we got to move forward as well. So that's always been my stance, but it is now about, as I said, 8:30 Eastern time. The Iron Bowl is underway. We still have no resolution from Lane Kiffin. And so I think, to me, this comes down to two very simple variables. One you're probably thinking, one maybe you're not, okay? The first one that you're probably thinking, things certainly got complicated on Black Friday with Lane Kiffin's future because of two different results that happened on Friday. The first one, to the credit of Lane Kiffin, his Ole Miss Rebels looked awesome. Went to Starkville, got the win, dominant fashion. They finished 11-1 in the regular season. And like I said, I can be critical of Lane Kiffin throughout this process. I can't be critical of Lane Kiffin and his ability to have his team ready to go on Friday afternoon in Starkville. By the way, for all my criticisms of Lane Kiffin, never called him a hoe. Okay, so you saw that headline probably. Never called Lane Kiffin any names. I've disagreed. Never called him a hoe, though. So I guess we have that going for this show, okay? But that was the first thing that happened on Friday of note, is that one, Ole Miss takes care of business against Mississippi State. The second one, which I think threw a huge monkey wrench into everything, is that Texas A&M lost to Texas on Friday, right? And so if you follow the narratives, if you follow the conversation, you know that Ole Miss was kind of at the, the back tier of teams that could legitimately play for an SEC title coming into the weekend. A Texas A&M win got them into the SEC championship game. A Georgia win, and Georgia took care of business against Georgia Tech, and either an Alabama loss or a Texas A&M loss got them in. So what does that mean? It means that Texas A&M is out. They have the one conference loss, whatever the tiebreak is. I assume it's overall record of opponents. We know Texas A&M didn't beat very many teams of note in league. Texas A&M is out. Georgia is now in. As we record, we are still trying to figure out if Alabama beats Auburn, Alabama will be in. If Alabama loses to Auburn, Ole Miss is in. And so I found it very interesting. And to me, this is the obvious reason that we do not have a decision on Lane Kiffin's future here as of 8:30 or so Eastern time on Saturday evening. It is because Lane Kiffin's trying to figure out if his team is playing for an SEC championship or not next week and how that would impact a decision. Okay. Not sure. I assume all of you have to some degree been watching college football all Saturday afternoon. But I bring it up because if you've been watching, they got Marty Smith, excuse me. I was going to say Marty Kiffin. I think I was thinking of Monty Kiffin, the legendary coach, rest in peace, whatever. But Marty Smith is embedded at Ole Miss. I don't know if he was in yoga class with Lane Kiffin on Saturday morning, but I bring it up because he is reporting on the minute what is going on. And I found it very interesting. Lane Kiffin called his coaches into the office on Saturday to basically start hypothetical prep for Georgia in an SEC championship game. And so to me, this throws a new wrinkle into this conversation for Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, right? If he beats Mississippi State or if he loses to Mississippi State, but they're not in the SEC championship game, he can make a final decision knowing whether if I stay, we're 11-1, we're playing in the college football playoff. If I go, they're 11-1, and I put them in position to compete at the highest level, go win a natty without me, right? Now, and I think this is part of the thing that is weighing on him, there's the possibility Ole Miss is going to be making its first ever trip to Atlanta next week. And oh, by the way, I think many of you are going to know whether they're going or not by the time that you watch this video. And so to me, I think it becomes a fascinating conversation, right? If Ole Miss or if Alabama loses to Auburn in the Iron Bowl, does Lane Kiffin try to kick this can down the road one more week and say, let me try to win an SEC championship? And does Keith Carter, his AD, allow him to do it? Or was it truly a drop dead deadline of Saturday? Hey, you got to make a decision or you're out Sunday at the latest. So that is going to be very interesting to me. If Alabama loses, would Ole Miss allow Lane Kiffin to coach in the SEC title game? Or to take it a step further, does Lane Kiffin just say, you know what? Maybe what all the outside people have been saying is true. Maybe what all the outside people have been saying is straightforward, is that if I just went 11-1, if I just had the best regular season in school history, if I am playing for an SEC title here at Ole Miss, then by definition, there is literally nothing I cannot do at LSU, at any other school, and I'm going to stay. So I think that's fascinating. I will be curious if Alabama does win and Ole Miss does not go to the SEC championship game. I do think there is something to, we should get a definitive decision on Lane Kiffin on Sunday. My hope is we get a decision by 11 a.m. Eastern because goodness gracious, I don't want to come back and record a show later on in the evening. Second thought, and I'll be quick on this because it's certainly an interesting internet rumor. And again, this speculation arises with the Iron Bowl still going on as we record right now. There are some people that believe that part of the reason that Lane Kiffin has not made a decision is because what if the Iron Bowl result not only leads to Ole Miss going to the SEC title game, but maybe an unexpected job opening? Okay, so this is one I've seen floating around the internet. But, we all know that for weeks there have been rumors about Kalen DeBoer. My buddy Ryan Fowler, who hosts in Tuscaloosa, Tide 100.9, he had some writer-reporter on from Pennsylvania. And this writer-reporter guy, I'm not trying to be a jerk. I don't remember the guy's name. He was adamant, like, oh, no. Penn State believes they have a shot at Kalen DeBoer. And basically the insinuation was if Alabama loses to Auburn, if they finish 9-3 for a second straight year, if they miss the playoffs for a second straight year, Kalen DeBoer may be interested in stepping out the side door and leaving Alabama. Now, listen, I'll tell you this. I've not heard from anybody credible that they believe that is happening. Okay. I talk to people in this industry all the time. I talk to people that cover Kalen DeBoer. I have not really heard anybody definitively say, yeah, I think if he loses, he's trying to sneak out the side door. Okay. But the interesting hypothetical becomes, what if over the next couple days, Ole Miss clinches the spot in the SEC title game because Alabama loses, and say Tuesday or Wednesday, Kalen DeBoer decides that he is going to go ahead and take the Penn State job. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying it's a hypothetical that is worth discussing. The thing that I think is interesting, and then, by the way, the obvious follow-up would be, would Lane Kiffin be the next Alabama coach, right? That has been the rumor for years, since long before Nick Saban actually even left Alabama, was that Lane Kiffin was the one guy that was crazy enough to want to replace Nick Saban at Alabama. And so if Kalen DeBoer were to hypothetically leave, probably for Penn State, does that mean that maybe, just maybe, Lane Kiffin would be in line to take Alabama and not LSU? That would be an interesting caveat. That would be an interesting twist. And the one thing I will say is this. I was thinking about this. Jimmy Sexton, who has certainly been in the news as Lane Kiffin's representation, let's remember, he is also Kalen DeBoer's representation as well. And so I'm starting to wonder, does Jimmy Sexton know something that we don't about Kalen DeBoer should he lose the Iron Bowl? Does Jimmy Sexton know, and has he maybe articulated it to Lane Kiffin of like, I'm just telling you, my guys are leaving if he does not win this game. And if he does, maybe that Alabama job that you've wanted for 7, 8, 9 years now would officially be yours. So it's an interesting conversation. It's an interesting debate. I don't think anybody knows at this point. And I do think, again, we will get clarification if Alabama does win the Iron Bowl, because if they do, guess what? Either Lane Kiffin is going to Ole Miss or LSU, and the decision comes pretty quickly because Ole Miss will not be playing again until the college football playoff. Of course, the opposite is true as well. If Alabama loses, Ole Miss goes to Atlanta. Does Lane Kiffin stay for that game and then try to get out? Does Lane Kiffin sign a contract extension at Ole Miss? Or does he maybe coach the Ole Miss Rebels in the SEC title game and see if Kalen DeBoer leaves for Penn State? Fascinating conversation. It's that time of year, man. It is crazy. We appreciate everybody's support. Again, I hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving, and we will be back live with a full episode of the Aaron Torres pod Sunday morning. I certainly hope by 11 a.m. Eastern time, Lane Kiffin has made a final decision.